Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have a bunch of different things that we're going to go through. The first thing is this. I saw this tweet from this guy. It says, Yellen just said that unrealized capital gains is income. Let that sink in. Unrealized gains is income. So, that's the world we live in now. And well, like I said here, bailouts, QE 1, 2, 3 trillions in debt. Where did you think this would end up? Where it will end up is nothing is sacred anymore. The people that put us in this debt, the people who did the bailouts and bailed out their friends, the people who have printed money like it was nothing for all these years and years, the politicians and all the bankers and all the bad guys. Those people will be the same people that turn to you and me, the hardworking people out here that work our butts off just to feed our families, and they're going to figure out a way to reach into your pocket more and more to fix the problem that's unfixable, that they continue to do. You hear them all the time. They say, well, we're going to spend this much money. We're going to dedicate this much money to such and such. And every time you hear that, no matter how great the cause, it's money that they don't have. This country's in over, I think, almost $30 trillion in debt, folks. It's pitiful, shameful, disgusting. There are people who should be put in prison that have put us in this position. But they won't go to prison. They'll be promoted to the next government job. Charles Gasparino had several things to say today. Let's go through them. The first thing he said is, and I think he's just being responsible journalist here, folks. You don't hear me, when I'm showing you video clips and I'm showing you documents, I'm showing you facts. I'm showing you things that are what they are, people's own words and facts. I am not saying that this person is this or that person is this, and I'm not calling them names. I'm not saying all that stuff. Look, the facts can lead where the facts lead, but I'm not here for that. What I'm really here for is just to have a level playing field. I'm tired of all this. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But if getting a level playing field makes us have to talk about this stuff, then so be it. That's kind of how I stand. But he says, I'm not saying I support the SEC case against Ripple. Far from it. People just have to be careful throwing around the corruption label. There's a lot of reasons why bad things happen outside the sphere of corruption and payoffs, etc. And I agree with him. Look, I'm not accusing people of those kind of things. All I'm telling you is I'm pointing to something and saying, well, that stinks, or there's a lot of smoke coming from there, but I am not calling anybody anything. That's not for me to decide. That's for a judge or Congress or somebody to decide, not me. I'm just showing you the things the facts and their own words that I've seen. And then he says, I know the XRP community is frustrated, but we all need a timeout. Just because the SEC charged Ripple doesn't mean there is corruption at the agency. The SEC is a bureaucracy, and bureaucracies do stuff that could be unfair without payoffs, etc. It's the nature of the beast. All right. And then John Deaton had retweeted his thing, and he says, I know many of us have our opinions, but it's in the interest of truth and justice for a journalist to hesitate using or adopting words like corruption, which I totally get that. Gasparino and Eleanor Terrett have been on top of this story for less than 2 weeks. At least they're asking the questions. Exactly. And I said, I totally agree. The facts are out there and getting out there. I believe Charles Gasparino is just being a responsible journalist. Then, let's see. I wanted to bring your attention to this. This was a tweet from yesterday where he said, stay tuned, that they are going to be putting together a detailed summary of various alleged conflicts of interest involving the SEC's case against Ripple. And he even says here, by the way, conflicts don't necessarily mean causation. So all he's saying is, look, we're going to keep showing the facts, and facts will lead one place or another. And that's completely fair. I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that. Then he comes out and hits us with this bomb. Thank you, John. Look forward to having you on our air Crypto Friday. So John Deaton is now going to be on Fox Business, and that's a big deal. That is awesome. So now there's a big controversy going on with this Songbird token. Apparently, a lot of these exchanges are getting it, but they're not distributing it to the people who had their XRP there during the lockup. And so I was just going to show you what he said. This is from James Rule about Coinbase. He says Coinbase is pocketing the Songbird. If the fork has already happened and Coinbase has not announced support for the new currency, it will not be possible to retrieve the forked asset for both customers or Coinbase itself. But then James Rule tweets this out: proof that Coinbase is receiving SGB and Flare. Flare claims, Songbird claims. So they are getting the Songbird at Coinbase. It's just a matter of whether they release it. Now, I wanted to show you this video. This is something that I missed from the other day. I wanted to show this to you. Jerome Powell.
We're also, as you know, investing heavily right now in building a new settlement system for instant payments in the U.S. It'll be the first such major expansion of our core payment system since the 1970s. We found the case for this quite compelling for consumers, businesses, and just ensuring that all financial institutions have access to the payment system. We're also, as you know, investing heavily.
All right, and then there was this video that I also missed from Real XRP Boy, one of the old OGs from XRP. Listen to what, this is a great clip. Brian Brooks, one of the good guys, listen.
And I'm going to come back to my market point. Countries like China have an ability that we don't have, right? Which is they have a command and control economy and a single party, sort of government. And if they want to dictate that we're going to have this kind of a currency, they can do that tomorrow. And we can't do that, right? Because we're a democracy and everything else. So that's never going to be our strength. Our strength is, as I've said in multiple other fora, we've already built a bunch of real-time payment systems. It just wasn't the government that did it, because that's the magic of America, right? And we're the people who will deliver you 8 different flavors when the Soviet Union would deliver you 1. Right. And so the question I've got is just what can we do as regulators to create a safe and sound environment where our private sector can be unleashed, because we're better than they are when we do that. And I think the problem we've had for the last 20 years or so is we haven't given clarity to the market about which of these things we think are legal and not. And that's what we're trying to start doing now, is to say, yes, we've seen some projects that we think are legally problematic. Jay's brought some lawsuits to highlight what those look like. Now we're trying to look at the other side of the coin. Here are some things that we think are highly valuable and we're okay with. Right? And so we start with the easy, low-hanging fruit of stablecoin-powered payment systems, as long as they are compliant with BSA AML requirements, as long as they're based in the U.S. and fully collateralized with fiat currency. We're more or less good with that. And if that's the standard, we've already beat China, because we've got a bunch of those networks, not just their one. That's our advantage. It's markets.
Exactly. And that's why we don't need one digital asset or 2 digital assets getting a free pass and all of the rest kept in purgatory, because someone somewhere wants it to be that way. And I try to tweet this out almost every day. Level playing field. Let Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP compete the American way. Then XRP Bart sent me a couple of interesting things. The SEC says we bid farewell to our amazing colleague John Coates, who will be leaving the agency in October to return teaching at Harvard. I bet he wants to get out of there. Then this guy, Dan Berkowitz, has been named SEC General Counsel, and my understanding is that this guy was he was the General Counsel at the CFTC when Gary Gensler was there. So I guess he's bringing back in some of his old buddies. Then there was this that hit this afternoon. Just in, the CFTC has settled with crypto exchange Kraken on charges it violated federal law by offering margin crypto products. The exchange will pay a $1.25 million fine. Now, I find this interesting because if you remember this morning, I showed you from Gary Gensler's calendar where he was meeting with, in July of this year, he was meeting with Kraken's legal counsel, okay? And that's against the backdrop of how he refused to meet Brian Brooks, or not, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase said that he tried to meet with Gary Gensler and Gary Gensler refused to meet with him. Meanwhile, he was meeting with Kraken, and now Kraken gets a little fine on this from the CFTC, and they're on the ground and running. All right. Now, this calendar this timeline that I showed you this morning, the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass timeline, I wanted to draw your attention to this. This was the meeting between Jay Clayton and Andreessen Horowitz, this is where the venture capital working group was hatched. Now, I pointed out this morning that this venture capital working group, it was hatched on January 25th with Jay Clayton, and it did not hit the news until April 19th, 2018, when there was an article in the New York Times. Well, I decided to go back to that article and look at who the author was. And a few interesting things come out of this. I decided I would go back into Nathaniel Popper, the author's Twitter feed, just to find out what this guy was talking about that day. What kind of things was he talking about, or were there any interesting threads? And I found a couple of things. This is his tweet on that day, April 19th, 2018, of the article. He says, Venture Capital Working Group, led by Andreessen Horowitz, quietly met with the SEC. Why were they quietly meeting with the SEC? Did they quietly invite Ripple to be in the meetings so that they could help to mold the industry policy? Was Ripple or Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larson or any of those guys, were they invited to these quiet meetings? Who else was in the quiet meetings? Were these meetings quiet? Is that why Bill Hinman's public calendar is still not being shown? Public calendar. This is a guy that was being paid by the taxpayer. This was on the taxpayer dime. Why is Bill Hinman's public calendar still quiet, like these meetings that were being had with the SEC? Well, that's not all that was there. Let's dig into it a little bit. So this is the thread. I just took a couple of screenshots, and here's where he posted that's the New York Times article, and then this is when he posted it, but he said a couple of more things that I pointed some red arrows to right here. Regulators have indicated in private meetings, folks, that they are considering whether even the second largest virtual currency, Ether, should be categorized as a security. So regulators have indicated to who? Him in private meetings, or have indicated to the people in the venture capital working group? I'm not clear on that, first of all. Then it says, the group pulled together by Andreessen Horowitz said in its proposal to the SEC that Ether has become so decentralized it should not be deemed a security. But private meetings. So we've got, what all did he say here? He said, quietly met. Private meetings. That's what was going on. So the question is, A, where's Bill Hinman's public calendar for this time period? And B, was anybody else in the industry invited besides people that were pushing Ethereum? Was Ripple invited? I can't even remember if Cardano was out at the time. I think it was. Cardano, were they invited? How about Roger Ver, Bitcoin Cash? I can't remember if that one was out. I think that one was out. Let me think of anybody else. What about Charlie Lee from Litecoin? I wonder if he was invited. Or, let me think of any of the. I wonder if the guy from I can't remember if Binance was even started then. But anyway, there was thousands of digital currencies. Were any of those people invited to these private, quiet meetings with the SEC? And if they weren't, why not? And then there's this. So the author, remembers Nathaniel Popper, and he obviously, the venture capital working group obviously thought that he was their go-to guy. So I said, well, let me see if this go-to guy is what his deal is. So all I did is I went to his thread and I typed in XRP. I looked for how many times Nathaniel Popper mentioned the letters XRP. And as you go through here, and you don't have to take my word for it, I will just scroll slowly while I talk. Every single mention that this guy has of Ripple or XRP is a negative comment. negative commentary. This guy is an anti-Ripple, anti-XRP guy. It's as obvious as the nose on your face, but he's an active anti-XRP and Ripple guy. This thing just goes and goes and goes and goes, folks. My point is that the guy that wrote the article for this venture capital work, they're the guy that they wanted to write the article. He's obviously an anti-Ripple, anti-XRP guy, and he's the guy that they want to write the article. He's the guy they trust, and I find that interesting. That's all I'll say about that. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Nathaniel Popper wrote quite an interesting article on April 19th of 2018. And before we leave, let's make sure we go over those words, because words mean things. Private meetings. These were private meetings, and they met. Andreessen Horowitz quietly met with the SEC. I already said it. I was about to say I'm the digital asset investor again. See what happens when I get tired and it's late in the day?